pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Council, let's turn on your microphones. And audience, if you have your cell phones, please put them on mute or turn them off, please. Okay, can we start with roll call, please?
Mayor Bain. Mayor Pro Tem Scalise.
Here.
Councilor Garrell. Here. Councilor Lundstrom.
Here.
Councilor Sherman.
Here.
Councilor Spradlin.
Here.
Councilor Stroud.
Here.
Okay, you've all had a chance to review the agenda for tonight. Are there any additions or corrections to be made for the agenda? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Do we
To
have a
approve
second?
the agenda. Okay, yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Garrell.
Yes.
Councilor Stroud.
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalise.
Yes. Item number 4, approval of the minutes of our regular meeting for August 23rd, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to be made to the minutes from last meeting? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilor Stroud.
Yes.
Councilor Garrell.
Yes.
Councilor Spradlin.
Yes.
Councilor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Councilor Sherman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalise.
Yes. Okay, item 5, visitors and delegations and citizen comments. As we move into this public comment, what I want you to know before we get going is when you come up, please address with your name and address, and you have a time limit, so use it wisely, and we'll accept public comments at this time. But I need to read something, so let me do that. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Each speaker will have one opportunity to address council, and please provide their name and address. Please note that no formal action will be taken on any item that is not on the posted agenda due to the open meetings law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. To better assist you with questions, please submit them in writing to the city clerk, and someone from staff will respond. There's a form on the table over there that can be filled out for that purpose. Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, which is continued from the August 23rd. Oh, public, okay. Public comment. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead.
Council, I'm Carl Magnuson. I live at 924 Bob Boulevard. I wrote a letter to a couple of council members concerning my feelings about the parking on the street. I really believe streets are for transportation and for access to public facilities and our homes. To use them for long-term parking makes it so that they aren't available. It also lowers the property value if those things are just hung around the streets. And I think it's wrong to use public things for private purposes. If it is extended to 5 days, what you basically have done is made the law of no effect at all. Because you go camping on the weekend and you park it during the week. Go camping on the weekend and park it during the week. So basically you're using the property for your personal gain, and not allowing other people to use that piece of property. At our street, during the last week, we have a stretch of property that is unused, but it's used all the time. there were pickups there were people doing construction in that area. Those people, those places that look like they're empty are not empty. They are used by people. And if you decide that you want it for your personal, then it can't be used by other people. Take, for example, a park. If you want to park your things at the park, and I want to park my things at the park, and the next guy wants to park his things at the park, you can't get to the park if you want to go to the park. Public streets are for transportation, for delivery, for the use of commerce going through the city, not to be for private parking. Private parking should be taken care of by the personal individual so that the public streets are maintained for transportation and public use. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi, Brush City Council staff, and the community members. My name is Matt Gordon. I was recently hired to be the next executive director of the Brush Area Chamber of Commerce. Today was actually my first day. So I'm actually just coming up here to announce that, but also shout out Oktoberfest, if you weren't aware, coming up on the 24th and the 25th. And just to say that I'm really excited to be working with the city closely, working with community members and town staff on all the projects going forward. I really appreciate the opportunity to come back to Brush. Some of you, most of you around this area, maybe in the back, don't know. I did my graduate internship here for 2 years from 2019 to 2020. And truly, I never wanted to leave. Job circumstances force us to make those tough decisions. But I feel very fortunate that I can be back in a place that I truly love and can call home. But thank you guys very much for what you do, and I look forward to working with you soon.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Matt.
Thank you for being back.
You look very familiar. The other guy had long hair, though.
It's coming back, don't you worry about it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kurt Dykes. I live at 407 Turner Street. The biggest reason on this camper situation was brought up is because a friend that was still getting told to move his camper and getting warnings after he moved it to the proper time of the 3 days. All he had to do was move it 2 feet either direction, but he was still getting warnings and he was getting told he's gonna get tickets if he didn't get it moved. So then we both wrote letters to the city council about getting something changed. The 3 days works fine if you're loading and unloading at that time. I have a camper and I have a driveway to park it in, but not every house has that. I don't see the problem parking on the street. I have heard people talk about cords across the sidewalks, but there are garden hoses across the sidewalks watering the grass between the sidewalk and the street. So I've heard also that makes the town look bad with campers on the streets. Don't know how, but there are a lot worse things in town than campers. It's okay to have cars parked on the street that haven't moved in months. This isn't an HOA town, last I knew. We are just asking for 3 months of the year to park campers on the street. I like to go camping, if possible, every other weekend. So if I didn't have the driveway, for some reason, then I'd have to come home, unload the camper, go park it somewhere, bring it back, reload it, go back out to camp, and then do the same thing all the time. You know, the biggest reason people buy campers is to do that, to enjoy the time out, and it's actually considered a second home for the summer. So we would really like to see from Memorial to Labor Day on the streets, and because they're not going to be there all summer long. And when I heard about all this coming up again, I kind of took a drive through town. I counted 8 campers throughout town on the streets. That's it. That's not making a town look bad. That's people enjoying life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Hi, guys. I'm Nancy Kelly at 425 Howell Avenue. And there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I would say, my vote would be leave it at the 3 days like it is. It worked for apparently a long time, until just recently. And I I think we ought to just leave it that way rather than going to 5 days and 2 days out, because that's, to me, that's the same as being here 90% of the time, at any rate. And I think it does clutter up the town, and it's not just campers. There's a horse trailer, a rusty, older horse trailer, parked across the street from someone that I know, and it's there all the time. It never has moved. And I wouldn't want to look out my front window at that. And yet, I don't know, he apparently doesn't have to pay the price for it or something, I don't know. But, and I understand that from the camping point of view, but we camped for a lot of years, and it never took us more than 3 days to get ready, and 3 days to unpack when we got home. And we were like him. We had a place for our camper, so it was not an issue. But I just don't think it's necessary to change it. Short and sweet and simple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Gary Blake. I live at 16118 Highway 71, Brush, Colorado. I'm here on behalf of the farm lease farmers that got leases due. I don't claim to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. What I want to do is farm. I've probably been at this place, the city farm, probably between 15 and 20 years. Recently, they have taken it in to do a sealed bid, which, if you can tell me of any other place that does that for a sealed bid. My problem is, a place that we've had for 15 or 20 years, we could lose. If I bid whatever, somebody could come in and bid a quarter more than what I bid. So I'm losing the property I have, or have had for 15 or 20 years for $5. As you know, I am the only one here tonight. There should have been 4 others, but it's that time of year. They're probably out farming, maybe some of the ground that they're leasing from you guys, because they can't get here because it's that time of the year to do that. All we ask is, if there's going to be a bid, that we have the option to meet that bid and not be kicked out for a $5 bill. I think most of the ones that you have here have done you a good job. And there's more to then, what you probably see is the amount we pay for the lease ground. What you don't see is the maintenance we do to keep that ground. It's just not what we pay out of pocket for the lease. We spray weeds, we mow weeds, we fertilize. That's all, it's an extra expense on what we're doing. We try to do a good job for the city so we can continue to keep the ground, but it's just like I said, my concern is losing it for a little bit of nothing. I've come down, I've talked to Dale, I've talked to Monty, which I'm disappointed that he's not here tonight. My response was, the mayor has a decision. That's why I come tonight. I want to talk to the mayor. Apparently, he's not here, but they're telling me he has the final decision. I don't know if that's right or wrong. But I would like the opportunity to at least match somebody's bid. We farm other ground too, and I've never ever heard of a sealed bid. We've done this for probably the last 2 years. We've had this sealed bid, and each year Monty tells us, next year we're going to look into that. Maybe we'll change. We didn't used to. The guys that had the farm ground wasn't even obligated to do the bidding. They had to match the bid of whoever, if somebody wanted to come out and bid more than what you did, just match the bid and go on. If somebody wants to get silly about the whole thing and bid way more, well, then we can opt out on it. But the ones I've talked to, like I said, I wish they was here tonight. They was here. We had a meeting the other day with Dana and Dale. Had a good meeting. And I think I'm speaking on their behalf. They feel the same way. There's always hidden expenses in farm ground. I don't know if any of you noticed all the little yellow butterflies that are around. You know what they're taking? Your alfalfa field. It's just stripping them. So there's an expensive fall that we've never had before. So anyway, please look at it. This is a little sudden. We usually do this in February. Now, I got a week's notice that our farm policy was up, and we're doing it here in September, which I didn't quite understand, but the reasoning wasn't, when they told me what they was doing, I was fine with it. But please look at it if you would, and at least give us an opportunity to keep doing you a good job.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Dan on the call? Is that Rob?
Steve Proctor on 429 Howell, and I'm here on the obedience to the parking regulations, the modifications, traffic code. I've heard all the other comments, and I agree, and I appreciate people who have the campers, but again, I was here before. There seems to be an assumption that there's a relationship between who's gonna park in front of somebody's property, if they own that trailer, mobile home trailer, camp trailer, but there isn't any under the statute. It's a public street, so if somebody comes and parks one of their camper trailer in front of my house for 5 days, and I ask them to move it, I don't have any authority to do that. And it seems to me this is kind of a workaround where you can park it for 5 days, then you're gonna move it for 2 days and come back for another 5 days. You can do that all summer long. And I guess my question is, how far does somebody have to move something? So if somebody parks in front of my house for 5 days, and they move, how far do they have to move it? A foot, 2 foot, across the street? I don't know, what's the requirement of that? How far do they have to move it?
The requirement right now is they have to have it off of the city street for that period of time.
For 2 days?
Yeah, so they can't just move it 2 feet. It has to be off the city street.
Okay, for 2 days.
Is it, yeah, I think 2 days.
Any city street?
Huh?
Any city street?
Yes.
Off the city street for 2 days, and then they can bring it back for another 5 days?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for answering my question. I'm against this, you already know that, so thanks for hearing me out.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, does anyone else want to speak to the council? Okay, thank you for your comments. We appreciate that. Okay, council, we're gonna skip around a little bit. So we're gonna go to 6A, the public hearing for Dardanus annexation. That was, and we're reopening the public hearing, which was continued from the August 23rd meeting for that annexation. So we'll have a staff report from Rick Krogan.
Thank you all again for coming so much. What'd you do?
I thought I put the air on.
You didn't shower today.
Once a week is good.
Good evening, council. I'm going to give you just an update and then tell you where we're at from here. We had a long staff discussion to talk about this, and then sought city council, or not city council, our city attorney's council, and then spoke to our water engineers council, and that is Heath Kuntz. And which was great, because then when I went back to Greg Dardanus, it's like, okay, these are the things that we're gonna have to discuss and come to an agreement. This is where he has agreed as far as the water or the utility lines coming in, water and city utility lines. All city utilities and private service lines must not go through private property, but extend on Mill Street west to right-of-way of Morgan County Road 26.2 and connect in front of a proposed annexed parcel further north on Morgan County Road 26.2, and he agreed to that, meaning no private lines through, but we're going to make the connections in front of each parcel. And then the second one is concerning the impact for the future road if we were to annex. he agreed to, with this statement, owner agrees to pay a $15,000 public improvement fee to be held indefinitely by the city for future purpose of annexation and maintenance of Morgan County Road 26.2 and/or Mill Street, including but not limited to street, curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So that money could be held for either improvements on Mill or when we annex that road. The part where we were close, where we were in agreement, but then I'll explain in a second what happened. Section says, owner agrees to supply one full share of water from, we couldn't decide if it was upper or lower, and that never became clear, of the Platte and Beaver Canal Company, or equivalent to 3 feet of water acceptable to the city. The issue ran in when he submitted what the type of certificate he has for water. It's from the Munns Addition Lateral Ditch and Water Company, but this is just a space to provide water. It's not actual water. So because of this, we can't come to terms, and so we're gonna move to continue the meeting again. So we're close, but that water component is the main critical component of the annexation to meet the requirements of annexation. So that's where we're at. Questions? All right.
So do we need a motion to continue the hearing again?
Yeah, I'm moving slow.
You're getting there?
I'm getting down there. Okay. Motion to continue the public hearing until the September 27th meeting. I'll accept the motion at this time.
I move that we continue the public hearings for the Dardanus annexation, annexing a certain unincorporated parcel of Land Lot 3, Townsend Minor Subdivision, a part of the south half, southwest quarter of Section 33, Township 4 North, Range 56 west of the 6th Principal Meridian, Morgan County, Colorado, Dardanus annexation to the city of Brush, Colorado.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Guerrero? Yes. Counselor Stroud?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Okay, we'll move down to B, and since we're continuing the public hearing, first reading does not apply at this time, so we'll move down to finance.
I move we approve disbursements and payroll from August 24th to September 13th, 2021 in the amount of $594,464.26.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Counselor Guerrero? Yes. Counselor Lindstrom?
Yes.
Counselor Spradlin?
Yes.
Counselor Stroud?
Yes.
Counselor Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Scalisi?
Yes. Okay, staff reports. Rick Coroglan, Assistant City Administrator, Community Development Director.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I've got a few things. I think there's like 12 things on my list, so I'll try to be brief. First comment is farm lease. I know I'm going to say a couple things, and then if Dale wanted to share something his time. I was told by Monty today just to make a statement that this was to be fair for anyone that comes in, and that if somebody has an opportunity to always have an opportunity to come and have first rights to refuse, then nothing ever changes, and it never becomes fair to anybody else. And so the goal was to be fair and to allow anybody, just like when we do any bids from the city, it should never be steered from letting them decide terms, but the city should decide terms and how this could be fair to all people. So that was the reason for why it was a closed bid like that, to be fair.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna need you to break that down for me, because I heard a lot of words, but they didn't make sense.
So when you open up a farm lease, it's to anybody. It's public lands, and so it's supposed to be for anybody to allow this. We're here because we decided to not do anything last year because of COVID and decide to reevaluate the whole system. How can it be fair? And to allow a clause, which is what was asked, if we can add a clause for first rights of refusal, that means no matter what bid comes in, he has a first rights to then come and outbid that person.
He who?
whoever
The
wants to.
current owner,
The current leasee?
Current leasee.
or leasee, yeah.
Correct.
So like in Mr. Blake's case, he would have the first rights of refusal to any bid that may outbid him?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see how that's unfair, though,
And I don't see
in
that
the
it would be-
aspects of the fact that if they've been a good steward of the property, and the fact that for 15 years they've put an investment into that property on top of the lease, they're getting the option to say yes or no, which would still, it's still the highest bid, which, I mean, I get what you're saying on fairness, on everybody's getting the option to just throw a number out there, but that might actually hurt us in the long run when it comes to bid numbers. But farming is a little different deal, than like a contractor, I would say, because they've put so much into that ground for years that I feel like they should at least have an opportunity to decide if they wanna put more money into it than the highest bid or not. So I don't know, I mean, that's just my personal opinion on it. When somebody puts 15 years of work into a property and is still willing to pay top dollar to lease it, I think that says something, you know, maybe.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And I would throw out there too, from my experience, like you said, farming is a different thing than other things where potentially maybe this specific field has, you know, this wonky characteristic that somebody just coming off the street would know about it. He or they or whomever might have that knowledge that if we went to the lowest bidder or high, whatever, we might lose something in that. Is it just straight, this is the lowest or highest, or do we factor in anything else?
No, this one, it's actually closed, so you don't know what the other people are bidding.
So I mean, like,
How do we
to our
choose?
choice, yeah, how do we choose? Is it just straight, this is the highest, or this one's a little lower, but this, we know this, you know what I mean? What are
So,
the
yeah,
factors?
does the mayor make the final decision on that, or?
I don't know, I was just told to relay what Monty
I'm just
wanted to
curious,
say.
because if Rick has the final option, if he's $20 lower than the highest bid, but he's been a really good asset on that piece of property, if he has the option to still, but then that, well, that, like, if it ever got around a coffee talk what the bids were, that might create a little bit of friction.
Yeah,
Is this happening no matter what? I mean, is there a way to stop it or to
I don't know.
reconsider? I mean,
Dale?
Rick, I know that you're the messenger coming out of this, but I have 3 questions that go with Larry's question, and along with Justin's question, and maybe we can take notes and bring this back to Monty and he can come back to us. But one, why did it switch to sealed? Because from what I heard from Mr. Blake, it's only been sealed for 2 years now. So I would like to know why it was switched to sealed bids. 2, who has the final say? And then 3 was, you know, is this the end? Can we reevaluate this, and why were they only given a week's notice?
They're a 5-year lease, to be perfectly honest, it's not every year.
But why did it switch from February to September?
Was that a COVID thing? We have so many
I don't know.
questions.
I don't have any answers.
I
Sorry,
can
Rick.
shed some light onto that. There's a couple of things that, from my own personal opinion, looking at these leases, the time windows, the time that they're let out for bid, they're not agricultural friendly at all. So, for example, if you're, right now, these guys are in the middle of harvest, right? They have this opportunity now to bid on this property. However, if they wait until February, then they have no idea if they're gonna get it. Are they gonna go out there, are they gonna waste the diesel to plow that field and prep it for next year's planting, or are they gonna give that to the guy who gets the lease next go? So, moving it forward like this makes it a little bit better for the actual tenants to determine whether or not they still wanna keep the property. Because if they know they're not gonna be able to keep the property because they lost the bid, why would they wanna put any more work into it than that? Additionally, we backed it up even further into August. We really wanted these out around the first part of August because the federal government has now been putting out grants or actual funding for those who do no-till farming. So once they get their crops off the field, if they choose to do a no-till farm, they can also get a subsidy from the federal government by doing so. But why would you plant a cover crop on something you don't know you're going to keep? It makes no sense. So we're trying to make these time windows a little bit more agricultural friendly. In addition, by doing it in August, these guys, like I said, where's the rest of the farmers that were here? They're out working their fields, they're cutting silage, they're harvesting beets right now.
So
And
wouldn't that make it difficult then, though, for them to be in the middle of a bid process while they're trying to take care of their crops?
Should not.
Okay.
If they already know the land. If they already know the land, it gives them that opportunity. Anybody else, and again, I mean, harvest isn't in full swing. So it gives people time to go out there, look it over the property, see what they want to pay for it in terms of, you know, how much per acre. But that's the intent of moving it away from February to right before harvest. That way, these gentlemen are not wasting their time or their money prepping a field for the next guy.
That makes sense.
So, have there been, bids already sealed? Have you limited bids on it? Or no?
I know people have taken packets, I don't know if anything's come back yet.
So-
And when is it actually due?
Well, it was due, on the 8th.
So
However,
then-
we had some issues with, well, their concerns for one. Having their concerns brought up, they felt it was just too short of a time frame. And I think there were some issues of the way that, the word had gotten out. And so I think Monty at that point had made the decision to extend it 2 weeks.
It's been extended to the 22nd, that's right.
Correct.
So Dan Crop, could we get any kind of, situation to where if we were to change, if we could change it, and we did change it because we started off saying it was to be a sealed bid, now we're not gonna do that, would that be could there be any repercussions for that?
This situation's pretty new to me. I don't know the specifics. What I can tell you, council, is, there's a thing in Colorado called public trust doctrine, and that says that any property that's held in public trust is you have a duty to make sure that's maintained. I think what this is coming down to is just like you guys have said, you know, the current tenant wants some stability, knowing it, but at the same time, we, you know, if we exclusively lease to one tenant without giving any of the other public, we're not really holding that land for the benefit of the public. The counterpoint to that is exactly what you brought up, that there is some benefit in knowing this person has been there for 10, 15, 20 years and has taken good care of that public asset. It's my understanding that if the mayor is the sole, and maybe I have this wrong, but if he's the sole determination of who wins the bid and it's only based on money, I think it's probably something we should re-look into, but I would recommend we postpone this. There's a couple of missing pieces in there.
Does anyone in the room know if it is the mayor that has the sole discretion on the leases?
I don't think anybody's that sure
Okay.
about
think
that. That's
council
something to
is-
clarify,
Council decides.
yeah.
But we can push it back then, so, until we can't make a decision.
Dale, haven't they been sealed bids in the past?
You know, I didn't do it in the last. This is the first year that I've been involved with this, simply because those farms are in my department. And all the people that have worked this in the past are no longer with us.
I know they all pretty much stay the same, they never change. but
And
don't
I
know if they've
think
been sealed.
Gary's biggest concern is, and I think he has personal reasons to fear this, somebody coming in 5 or 10 cents over him and him losing his farms to that. And so he just wants the option to match that bid if somebody comes in, cause they somehow know what the bids were, or something.
Are the current leasees not familiar with the first right of refusal?
We don't offer the first right of refusal.
Rick said we did, don't we?
No, that's what they want us
That's what
to
they're
do.
wanting.
That's what he's asking.
That's what he's asking.
But that
for.
hasn't been approved.
Right, and that's
Oh.
what they're asking for, is just the first right.
So, you know, there's still a lot, I think, you're right, we need to move this down the line a little bit.
Some of the
Because
other
we don't
concerns
know all
that-
the answers. Hey,
that
Dan,
Mhm.
is that something you'd recommend? I think you already did that.
I can talk to Monty and get to the bottom of this process. I don't see any liability for postponing this until the next meeting, but I would suggest, in order to give all the people who are using this land a fair chance and some surety on their investment, that we do make a decision
you, Dan.
Would you like to hear the rest of mine, or would you?
Oh, okay, I'll throw it down.
I'm just a messenger.
We just wanted to make sure that you didn't get done too fast.
Thanks.
5 minutes is up.
She only gives me 2 minutes every time I come up here.
Okay.
So, Westwood, that application, we are still trying to help them make a clear decision on a PUD versus a major subdivision. The issues that we're at right now is all of the subdivisions in the past around Westwood, all the different phases we're at, never had a requirement for open space requirement. None of them did. I've researched them all. And it's put a major dilemma on him to then be forced to have this. So that's where we're at. If we go by code, the code says you have an open space requirement in both major subdivision or a PUD. PUD is 25% and open space, major subdivision is 15%. So it's a significant burden, and so we have to decide that. So that's where we're at.
PUD?
Oh, sorry, planned unit development.
Okay.
That's the only thing in our code that allows you to have mixed zonings. So it's a whole mixed, you can create something special, not being bound by what our code says. So you get to create it yourself.
But we kind of want the code, right? That's why we passed it?
Yeah. Yeah, so if in order for him to continue, he'd have to re-subdivide all of the things and in each of the 3 areas, because he's got residential medium density, residential mixed, and commercial. He would have to do 3 separate developments if he does a conventional way of the code, major subdivisions. So he'd have to do 3 of them. PUD lets you do all of it once.
This
That's
open space is for like parks and
Correct.
playgrounds.
Open space, walk paths.
Okay,
I don't think we want to, not do those.
I agree.
Like, skip on
I
this.
agree. I'm just giving you an update.
Okay.
And we're not making decisions or anything like that, but it's just, this is.
So that's hanging up in the process right now.
Correct, yeah, until that gets clear, then we can move forward with a planning and zoning hearing to rezone it, and then we can start working with the sketch, and then preliminary plat, and then kind of moving down the order of that. So we're not there. Planning and zoning board meeting was great. We did update, we did training, teaching, reminding them what that board does, and what authority they have, and what decisions, what is the difference in a meeting versus a hearing, and then we talked through that. Really good. Tree board meeting, did this the very same thing, so I've been here a year and a half and never had a tree board meeting. And so it's kind of like, guys, we need to meet, let's remind what that board does, what authority they have. And they were excited about getting back on the page of making recommendations for trimming city trees, planting trees, and an Arbor Day. So those are the 3 things that they're getting. They want to get more things happening. Historic preservation, there are 5 interested parties for local designation, so that's pretty neat. Last year we only had 2, and before that we've never had one. So we have 5 currently right now. Facade grants, we have 4 applications to improve their facades. The sad thing about it is our downtown needs major rehaul, and so our current facade grants really don't go very far. So the max I can even do is $1,000 per application. So hopefully in time we can increase that so that we can do more for these facades and these businesses. Main Street grants, we had 9 applications. I thought it was 10, but it was actually 9. We had to withhold one because they didn't supply all the documents. That's still great. That's about $340,000 worth of stuff. So that's a lot, and we should hear back in the next 3 to 4 weeks about if we get that grant or not. CML District 1 meeting at Akron. I know that we had 2 of our council there, and it was a great just to interact with other cities and hear the projects that they're doing. And then we are going to be holding one
Next fall.
Next fall. Okay, I couldn't remember what it was. So we'll host that one for the region. Regional city managers meetings. I initiated that last year, and we've been consistently doing them every month. That's us, Wiggins, and Fort Morgan. And I love that time because we're able to talk and hear each other's struggles, offer solutions, and hear where we're moving towards, like our housing issues, development, major street projects, funding, going through grant writing and things like how can we collaborate together. So that's refreshing to be able to part of New teacher luncheon, that was something we did not too long ago, and that was great to meet some of the new teachers, welcome them to the community. And then lastly, I had a meeting with Beaver Valley third grade teachers to start their planning for the Arbor Day celebration. And so that was neat to kind of see that happen again. So, been busy. Any questions? Yes.
I don't know if this is the time, but you brought up the
Chickens?
trees. And then did you see where I found the chicken? The trees. You brought up the tree board. The trees on Clayton Street are an issue. Everybody's complaining about them because you can't see any of the signs. Have you guys, well, obviously you haven't met, so do you think maybe they might address that?
That I can bring it up to the next meeting.
Let's bring that would
Yeah.
be.
No,
Is
I
that gonna
agree.
be in
and
18
it's-
months?
Say again?
Another year and a half?
No. We are gonna start meeting monthly, so we
Okay.
put it on the calendar to start meeting monthly for that board. I'd like to try to get all the boards to meet monthly, but I think that was the only one that we hadn't met yet. So, Board of Adjustments only meets as needed. Planning and zoning, we should start getting regularly with that. I'm used to seeing from Augusta regular monthly meetings, but, you know, there's not many things on the agenda, so, but it's good for teaching and training times too, so, good. Anything else?
So I got inundated by plumbers with a question about permitting.
Okay.
Is a permit required for like water heater changeouts and stuff through the city since they have to buy it through the state?
Okay, so that's a great question, and we need to change code again. Because the more I've researched it, I'm trying to remember, like, how did that get on the board from the beginning? And it's mainly because we try to be consistent with Fort Morgan. Fort Morgan has its own internal system where they can do their own plumbing permits and stuff like that. They don't do the state.
Yeah.
And so that was one that I think slipped in that didn't get caught.
Okay.
So we're gonna take that out of code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
So
it.
that would solve all that, because we don't do any of that anyways.
I walked into
So-
a hornet's nest at the supply house.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so good point. We've called it already.
Okay.
And we're gonna, get that changed.
Cool. Thank you.
We're not requiring it RN right now, because we already letting people know it's a mistake.
Cool.
Yep.
Rick, I would just like to say thank you for being a good steward of our codes and our ordinances. Really do appreciate your work.
Thank you.
I have a question, Rick. Are you gonna, at some point, do you know what I'm gonna say?
Yes, I know you're about to say.
Okay.
I'll give an update on that. We are still trying to get them to finish their CO, Certificate of Occupancy.
Yeah.
You're talking about CLP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. We've still not, unfortunately, finalized that certificate of occupancy. There's still things that have not been met, and so their existing, their previous temporary certificate of occupancy has expired. And so the biggest thing that we're still waiting to get is their letter of credit. Letter of credit gives us the assurity that if something's not done according to their agreements, SIA and special use permits and all those other agreements that has conditions, many of these conditions have not been met. So our teeth is having the letter of credit to have that cash to do those things. And we want to get that done first before we do all the tours and things like
what's
that.
the possibility of getting the letter of credit? If it's,
So we are very close. The last is where they submitted to us what the legal verbiage was. I had Dan Kropp. Dan, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
We just amended a couple changes. They wanted it to automatically reduce at a certain date, and we need that letter of credit to step down based on the cost of the improvements rather than an arbitrary date. So we're just finalizing a couple sentences, I believe. Is that where we are, Rick?
Correct, yeah. Dan made it very clear so that they didn't get out easy, to make sure that they do all their things and that money would be held until those things, these big blocks would be done, and then it would step down to a major affordable of like 40 grand that we would hold for a little bit longer to finish any other kind of small warranty kind of things. But Dan caught that, and then we submitted back to them, and they basically took the can and kicked it back to us and saying, well, please review the entire document, not just that one section. Dan reviewed it and I sent it back, and it's in their court now. So these things always take time.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
Still working on it.
Okay, Chief, you're up.
Good evening. We are very busy. Calls for service has been increasing steadily about the past 3 to 4 weeks. Nothing specific other than thefts, so lock your doors, lock your cars, don't leave your toys laying out, close your garage doors. Nobody's breaking into homes, they're just picking up easy to steal items, so. We're still short-staffed. We have 2 officers still out on medical, no foreseeable end to that. Still waiting on doctors and whatnot for the next probably 2 months, but I don't know exactly. So the rest of the officers are working a lot of overtime. So if you see those guys out there, just tell them thank you. They are working very hard. We did have another officer resign, his last day was yesterday. I can't get into any of the particulars, but he left in good standing. And I can give you an update hopefully at the next council meeting or another one after that. The regional SWAT team had its first deployment 3 weeks ago, and that went very, very well. I was a barricaded subject in Fort Morgan. Very good resolution, and everything went phenomenally well, especially for bringing 5 agencies together in a short period of time. So I'm very pleased about that. And the Drug Task Force has also been very busy. They just served their latest search warrant on Friday, and stumbled upon a whole bunch of other crimes not related to drugs. So I would call that a great success as well. So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Colrick.
Thank you. Our sidewalk project is starting to wind down now just a little bit. Things are going to move very quickly. This is always the portion of the project you get about 2/3 to 3/4 the way in, and everybody gets frustrated with each other, and everybody's tired of seeing it and just really impatient. But I really do ask people to be patient with us. Things are going to move very quickly this week. I think we're going to see a lot more movement. I think it's looking good already. And so hopefully we can get that wound up. The good news is CDOT was able to find a way to include the 4th portion of that project, which is that 800 and 900 block of Edison right there between Turner and Ray. That was always one of those holdbacks, because if we ran short of funding, it was going to be sacrificial. However, they found a way to make that work, so I'm very pleased to say that we will get it all the way from Turner to Hospital Road at this point. And so there's still going to be traffic control. Please be patient, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And about it.
I have a concern.
Certainly.
I'm sure anyone that's driven 34 has seen the self-painted fail sign in the driveway.
I'll discuss that with you offline if you don't mind.
That would be great.
This is not something to be discussed in public.
Okay, I was just a little worried about it, so
Okay.
I'm happy to hear that we can talk about it.
All right. Very good.
I had someone contact, I guess it was more on social media, a little bit of a concern about the visibility of the stop sign on Ellsworth and Clayton. Is that the 4-way stop?
It is the 4-way that's off kilt, and you cannot see, if you're coming south on Clayton, right as you get to Ellsworth, you cannot see the stop sign.
Okay, whenever there's a situation like that, I strongly encourage council or any citizen to call City Hall and put in a work order, and we can get to it.
I think the
Okay.
request
can't-
was possibly like
Flashing.
flashing lights or something.
Due to children at play.
Again, we
Just something to look at.
can certainly look at that, but I strongly encourage anybody who has a concern like that, call City Hall, put in a work order. We can't track it, we can't manage it if we can't track it.
Right.
So, and that's the best way to do it.
Thank you, Dale.
You bet.
Thanks, Dale.
Any other?
Thank you.
Joanne.
I have nothing to see.
Oh, wow.
Come on, did Rick take all your time?
Okay, now Lorena, you have 4 minutes now. You're on.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, for those who watch the council meetings, our audio has kind of been a little wonky lately, for lack of a better term. In fact, last meeting, you could barely hear the audio for about the first 26 minutes. We had a meeting where we had no audio. So that is something that is going to be addressed this week. I'm going to start to get on that and see what we can do to resolve that. And then we also have the CML conference next week for those of you who are going. I'm gonna send out an email, this week so that you just kinda know what to expect, and if you have any questions, let me know. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Dan, Rob, City Attorney, do you have anything for us?
I do not, thank you.
All right.
I'm happy to answer questions though, if there are any.
Anybody have a question for Dan? Well, nothing here, Dan. So, Mayor and Council reports, anyone have anything they'd like to bring up?
There's nothing that I already did.
I would just like to support Rick and say that we had a great CML District 1 meeting. We did learn a lot. Sounds like water is a hot topic across the eastern part of the state. So, I mean, it was a good meeting. I think we learned a lot coming out of that. Water and housing, that's the number 2 topics that came out of every district, or every municipality. So it was
So
pretty neat.
everybody's working on those 2 topics.
Yes, everyone has the same thing, although none of them had the great opportunity to offer as Monty did, that we have at least someone interested. Most people are just concerned about how to get it going, with the exception, of course, of Wiggins, who has more developments in active building. So, no, it was a great meeting, and I can't think of anything else that was important. Can you guys, with the water and the housing?
Well, just to add, the housing was, should I take my time again?
Yeah, Rick.
Sorry. The housing to me was the one that was so glaring. Most of our cities around us, smaller cities, towns, they can't, they're begging and they can't get anyone to look at them. And it's hard, and they're trying to get everything to get housing. All of them are in the same situation. And it's very sobering that we have 2 developers right now that are looking at Rush. And I don't know, I just don't want us to lose these. This is important. I mean, they're all starving for this. So that was the most glaring part for me.
The question was posed to both Rick and I by CML, if we have to incentivize developers to come to Brush, because it is such a struggle across the state. And I thought that that was a rather interesting question to pose. I think it's something we really need to stay on top of, is making sure that we can get the housing, and everyone's running into the same issue, the employment. There's no one for anyone to live. So I just thought you guys should know that.
Sure.
I have something. So at our last work session, I think we need to put our heads together and figure out a better way, a more, what we're looking for, organized way to have these discussions from now on. If it's gonna be something like trailers or chickens or whatever, leads to a long discussion. I left the last meeting after we all talked over each other for what seemed like 4 hours. And I couldn't tell you what decision we came down to. I think it's incredibly unfair for us to send old Crob out of here. Like, that must've been a ride home, huh, Dan? I mean, what did we decide? You know, I couldn't tell you for sure what we decided, and that's not at all what we should be doing. So, if anybody has any ideas, I'm open to it. The only idea I have is like start at one end, everybody just kind of voices their opinion, gives their 2 cents, go for a second round, you know, and then go from there. Just so long as we all give our.
I did speak with the mayor after that because there was some, I drafted where I thought and I clearly missed the boat, so I redrafted it. And she did suggest that perhaps exactly what you're suggesting might be, something good for council to consider, just to get some order. And I know he's not there tonight, so I figured I'd echo your comments.
So if anyone has any ideas, I'm open to whatever, just whatever gets more organized.
I'll try to take it easy, I'm sorry.
I know,
just under the bus.
If we could not do this anymore.
I want the spirit to stick back.
We'll see how this next work session
All right.
goes.
On that note, I was just gonna thank everyone for making it interesting tonight. My son's here. Guy who kind of looks like me, only
Kind of.
I was wondering who the
Only
quiet
feel
guy in
way
the back
shorter.
room was.
For extra credit for his current issues class. So thank you guys for, not throwing him out or booing him or anything. Yeah.
Well, we didn't even know who he was.
Well, now you can, please.
How do you not know this is son? How do you?
I don't know how I missed it.
It's the hair.
Yeah. Yes,
You were lucky there was at least somebody here tonight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys.
Now you talk about getting disorderly and everything. Here we are again.
You're the one in charge, you're running the
Yeah.
show.
The show's over, folks. If there's nothing else, I hereby adjourn the meeting, and we'll move into the work session.